first episode of our travels, we acclimatized in Bangkok before visiting Chiang Mai in Thailand's beautiful north. We took some days to relax in the mountains and had a blast doing the tubing in Pai. Now we make our way further down south looking for some more tropical impressions and finally escape the rain to enjoy some of the picturesque sunsets we all love about Thailand. The next day, we took a minivan back down to Chiang Mai, where we had to board a plane a little later. It's just a short flight, but given the layover in Bangkok for some hours, it took us until the evening to finally arrive in Ao Nang, Krabi. So we just walked down to the main promenade to have some dinner and called it an early night. We stayed at the wonderful Glur hostel, which is a good 10-minute walk from the beach.
Hier ist gleich der nächste. Die gönnen sich erstmal eine Pille zum Frühstück.
Vertreiben, Mann, ich hab da Bescheid gegeben.
Naja, wenn du nachher richtig ravest, dann weißt du, dass der Apotheker cool zu dir war.
The constant rain and the permanent changes between hot and humid climate on the outside and cold and dry in the air-conditioned rooms had taken their toll on us. So when we finally arrived at the ocean front, we were coughing and sneezing with sore throats. Nevertheless, we decided to explore our surroundings and found a wooden path leading through some forested area. The Monkey Trail connects Ao Nang Beach with Pai Plong Beach to the southern side. Since we were here in the early morning hours, the beach was still pretty calm and not many people were walking around. When it became more crowded, we decided to head back to town and walk around the U-shaped promenade of Ao Nang. In the early evening hours, we enjoyed a cold beer and went out for the hunt for some delicious street food again. Fortunately, wherever in Thailand you are, there is an abundance of mouth-watering food options around until late evening.
Wer ist da denn?
My travel mate Arnsten from the first two trips joined us for the upcoming week traveling around the south. Back to business. We went out into the nightlife of Ao Nang again, giving Arnsten a warm welcome and celebrating our reunion so far from home. But since he had various delays and layovers on his way here, the signs of exhaustion of a 30-hour trip could no longer be hidden. Waking up early the next morning, Arnsten couldn't wait to refresh from yesterday's travels and checked out the pool, while Andy and I discussed today's plan. We didn't want to waste too much time since the weather looked pretty nice that day, so we booked a snorkeling trip at the hostel's reception and got going. There's really not much to say about a snorkel trip. I mean, you're on a boat, you go from spot to spot, and you go snorkeling.
Der wird sogar in den Kopf gestoßen.
Was ist denn da Schönes?
O-Saft.
O-Saft? 3 O-Saft, bist du so durstig?
O-Saft mit Schafen.
Our tour passed by the famous Chicken Head Island. And after another relaxing snorkeling stop and receiving freshly peeled pineapples, it became clear our next stop would be the delicious barbecue included in our tour and prepared by the boat crew right at the spot. These guys created an amazing feast with a variety of delicious local meats and treats. With full stomachs, we spent the rest of the afternoon on this island just relaxing and watching the beautiful scenery of the limestone formation and the sun setting at the horizon. Our tour departed at dusk, and so we drove into the pitch black sea when returning back home to the mainland.
Wir haben Sonnenschein auf Wish bestellt hier.
The next day, we were off to Koh Phi Phi and really wanted to start our island hopping despite the weather. So we arrived on Koh Phi Phi at noon and made our way over the small island. Since there are no cars on the island, it was a short 20-minute walk to the accommodation we had booked. And first things first, Ernst and Andy immediately checked out the pool again. We just chilled at the resort for some hours before heading out to the streets of Koh Phi Phi in the evening hours. The streets are pretty cozy and everything is built very tight together, so there is a variety of souvenir shops, bars and restaurants all walking distance away in the town center.
Isn't it beautiful?
Arnson went on a little shopping streak before we decided to join the famous Thai kickboxing event in the Reggae Boxing Bar. Due to my size and body shape, I got approached by a few people asking me to get into the ring with them and fight for a bucket of alcohol. But I thankfully refused their offer and just kept myself immersed by other drunk tourists throwing punches at each other. One of the people that wanted to fight me was named Tony, a guy from the UK who a little later seemed to have found an equivalent opponent. To keep the audience entertained and probably to motivate them, local Muay Thai fighters were showcasing their talent in between the tourist fights. A little tipsy, we left the boxing bar and wanted to check out the bars at the beach. The party went on until late after midnight, and when it started pouring down again, we decided it was time for us to go back to the resort and catch some hours of sleep.
Es steht alles unter Wasser. Ich glaube, mehr Regen geht auch nicht. Also gehen wir mal runter, weil läuft ja nicht, ne?
So we ended this day the way it started, in the pool of our resort. The next morning, the devastation of the rainstorm and the previous night was unmissable.
Ernst auf Rettungsmission, Vorsicht. Da liegt die Badehose.
Arnson's swim shorts had dropped off the railing. We walked back into the center to have breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Mach mal dein Geräusch.
Apart from that, we just hang around town, Arnsten went to another shopping spree, and we made a plan for the evening. We went to the beach to watch some guys practicing for the fire show. And back into town because Arnsten was craving a Nutella peanut banana crepe.
Das ist die richtige Richtung erstmal, oder?
Ja, also das modelliert aus.
Da ist ein Gecko.
And not just the streets of the town center were busy, as we had to find out when we arrived back home in our room.
Da sitzt eine Gottesarbeiterin.
Der kriegt eine gefressene Support, oder?
Der Gecko. Versucht's, glaube ich.
We went to bed quite early that night because we wanted to make the most of the upcoming day. The next day, the bad weather system was still stuck over PP.
Spätestens hier sollte man auch wieder sichtlich etwas langsamer fahren.
So we kept on exploring the small alleys and streets of the island a little further. Getting that caffeine fix, Arnsten and Andy came up with the idea of visiting a bar we had seen the lights blinking off the last nights we walked our way home. And since we can always think best when we play pool, we merged our ideas of adventurelust and relaxation. And so we made the plan to visit the nearby beach, no matter the weather. We just went to the beach and paid a random local longtail boat driver to bring us to the famous Monkey Bay.
Kommt so eine gelbe Schaumpille an.
Was ist das für ein Strand? Schau dir das an. Das ist wie in the beach, 100%.
Despite the name Monkey Bay, there were no monkeys to be seen anywhere around the beach.
Heißt das doch nur so, ob wir keine Affen sind? Doch.
Wie weich dieser Sand einfach ist. Er ist einfach so super weich.
Krass, oder?
And after a while of checking out the beach, we decided to head back to the waiting longtail boat driver and make our way back to Aurora.
Andy macht sich nützlich und packt erstmal die Leiter ein.
Andy, ab morgen kannst du ja arbeiten.
Ich bin doch jetzt der Chef, überfahren.
Ja, du willst fahren. Mal gucken, ob du noch fahren darfst.
Ich will fahren.
Fortunately, we had decided to leave all our electronics and valuables at home before coming here, because on the way back, we got a little soaked by the rain.
Das Hostel können wir am besten, bevor wir losgehen, buchen.
Auf jeden Fall. Okay.
Sonst verraffen wir das nicht mehr.
Oh, wie kalt der Regen ist. Aber der Pool ist warm. Also wenn es blitzt, gehe ich aber raus.
Wasser ist ein guter Blitzableiter.
Auf jeden Fall.
Ja, dann machen wir das.
Solange wir die Bierflasche in der Hand haben.
Ich denke, wir sind hier safe. Ja, da vorne ist eigentlich Meer. Also mehr, als man sieht.
In the evening, we went back to the bar from midday and waited for the rain to stop or at least become a little less intense. When it had finally stopped raining, we took our chances and walked back into town again. We ended up on the beach, where it was pretty crowded. The people hosting the fire shows had a big burning jumping rope and other little games to keep the crowd of travelers entertained. So the chance of winning a free shot was enough to convince Andy it would be a good idea to join in on the fun. We watched the people desperately playing Hangman Jack. And limbo for a free shot again was an offer Andy simply couldn't refuse. We ended up in the Blanco Beach bar again and things went pretty wild from this point on. Since the Stones bar is right next to the Blanco, we switched between the bars a few times over the evening. A while later, a lot of drunk backpackers decided it would be a good idea to go into the ocean again. Some even climbed the longtail boats of the locals to use them as a jumping platform. And with no one left in the Blanco bar, we had to admit the party was over.
Jetzt ernsthaft? Ich kann mich nicht rein. Andy! Alter, wie schnell du einschläfst, Mann!
When the next morning started with rain again, we decided to leave Koh Phi Phi and make our way to one of the neighboring islands, Koh Lanta. On the pier to the ferry, we got to know a German girl who wanted to escape the rain as well, and hence decided to join us. So from now on, Marlene was a part of our group for the next days. And Koh Lanta presented itself in its full beauty. Nevertheless, we didn't just want to sit in the hostel, and so we jumped on a Songtao and drove to the old town of Koh Lanta. We checked out some of the souvenir shops, but since they're all offering the same crap, we decided to just have some delicious food while being here. We walked up and down the main road to find the best option for food and decided to have a seat in the riverside restaurant. After lunch, we walked back to the spot where our Songtao driver had dropped us, and when we found him just chilling in the back of his vehicle, we decided to make our way down to the main pier to take a picture. We've clearly had enough of all the rain, and though this being the rainy season, we barely had a day without it pouring down for hours. Back at the hostel, we had to make the choice on whether to stay or to leave on the next day. And you might have guessed it, we left Koh Lanta and made our way back to the mainland again. And though it looked promising first, we weren't even surprised anymore when it started pouring down another time. It stopped again in the evening hours, and so we made a last attempt at seeing something of the place we're actually in. We saw this temple from afar and decided we want to go there on the upcoming day. We wanted to have a good night drink with our new companion Marlene, and were looking for a bar when it yet started raining another time. And so we watched the rain from the next best bar. We returned back to our hostel after just one drink and ended the evening playing some games.
Andy packt und freut sich schon mega auf zu Hause. Bei Hansen das Gleiche. Riesige Vorfreude auf Deutschland sehe ich da in seinen Augen. Und Marlene fliegt nach Chiang Mai.
Yay!
Ganz viel Affen da.
Today was already going to be our last day in this constellation, so we decided we'd realize our idea from the previous day and visit the beautiful Tiger Cave temple.
1260 steps. Wow. Da ist das Ende. Das ist auch einfach hier hochgelaufen. Ich mache kein Foto, ich filme. Und das ist ganz gut.
The top platform is elevated at 278 meters above ground, and the views over Krabi area are simply beautiful. The temple was given its name after a monk that went to the cave for meditation, witnessed tigers roaming around the cave.
Das ist schon Hammer, wie steil das hier runtergeht. Lehne kommt da und dahinter Ast.
Some of the stairs leading to the temple are more than 30 centimeters high, so you really have to watch your step on the way up and even more so on the way down. Now it was time to say goodbye to my friends and also for a huge change of pace.
Aber jetzt bin ich allein unterwegs, ne? Mal sehen, was das gibt. Jetzt sitze ich am Bus nach Suratani.
For the next 9 weeks, I would be traveling solo, on my own, trying to find a way through the countries of Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam. But first, I wanted to make my way to the Gulf of Thailand, which I remembered so vividly from 5 years ago. So I stayed in Suratani for a night to get the ferry to Koh Phangan the next day. Now on my own, I take the ferry to Koh Phangan and cross over to my favorite island, Koh Tao. From the south, I return all the way to Bangkok and wallow in the smells and sounds of the Sukhumvit area. So join me on the next episode of Vagabond.